All right. I think we're ready to roll. So just want to introduce myself. Number one, thank you guys for taking I guess about 30 minutes out of your day to learn more about franchising with ISI. My name is Adam Rice. I'm the founder and CEO here at ISI Elite Training. Really what the goal to accomplish today is to give you guys a little bit more information of what it's like to own an ISI, some information in or around it. And then from there to create a next step for you guys if it is something that you want to learn more about. So that's really the goal here over the next 30 minutes. So I know several people on here are members of an ISI location across the country, and some maybe have no idea or never been in an ISI, and maybe a spouse or a sister or an aunt across the country told you to jump on this. Whatever that is, I always want to start with what is ISI Elite Training. So we're in the boutique fitness space. We're anywhere from 2,400 to 3,200 square feet in a Class A real estate, meaning your higher end shopping plazas, your Publix, your Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, those types of plazas that we're in. ISI, and I'd say our biggest competitor in this space, or brands that additionally are like us, would be your Orange Theory, your F45, Burn Boot Camp, kind of in that same category that we are. Really, our training philosophy at the end of the day comes down from, it's called ABT, so athletic-based training. And I'll give you a little bit of a background of how we started the brand. So I played college baseball. I don't know if any of you guys watched the College World Series, but coming off of that hot, LSU Tigers won last night. I played college baseball at Coastal Carolina University, and really a lot of people ask when the brand started, and honestly, the brand started when I was a junior in high school, and I was severely overweight. I was about 80 pounds overweight, but I could mash the baseball. And so I was at a camp. I grew up in Iowa. I was at a camp at the University of Iowa, and was out at a camp. And again, I was hitting like leading the state in batting average for a 4A school, but getting no scholarship offers, wasn't getting recruited at all. And I was out on the warning track with the University of Iowa coach, and he's like, Adam, you're too much of a liability on the base path to play at Division I level. And so it was that day that I say ISI started, because that day I went and started researching and Googling, how do you lose weight? How do you get faster? And I went on to lose, over the next 6 months, I went on to lose about 70 pounds. And went to junior college for a year, and then ended up leading, ironically, being in the top 10 in stolen bases, and had the opportunity to play at Coastal Carolina there and in the Cape Cod League as well. And so right after college baseball, knew I wanted to get into this industry, always had an entrepreneurial mindset, and so dove straight into this industry and opened a small little studio in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And it was called Beachbody Fitness, which if any of you guys have taken like P90X, Insanity, you know that their parent company is Beachbody. So I'm 21 years old, know nothing about trademark infringement at that time. And I get a nasty letter from their legal team that's saying you need to cease and desist using that name. So that's really where ISI was born. And my wife and I were in a sermon at church, and it was on Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron as one man sharpens another. And I don't know if you played sports growing up or haven't, but the reality is we become and mold like the people that we surround ourselves with. If you're in sports or not, doesn't matter. And so I was like, man, this makes so much sense from accountability, but it also makes a lot of sense from, I think, anybody with a growth mindset, that you have to have friction to create and sharpen iron, right? And so there's always going to be friction to that next level in our life, whether it's in fitness, relationships, in our faith, whatever it is. So a lot of people ask and say, are you a Christian company? And I like to say, like, no, I wouldn't call us a Christian-based company. We're really rooted and founded in the principles of a proverb. And that's what I'm a believer myself, 100%, but in no way is this an exclusive a brand. It's inclusive of everybody. And I always say, man, inside those four walls, you see different races, ages, belief systems, but everyone has the same goal, and that's to get better. And that's really the beauty of Iron Sharpens Iron and ISI Elite Training. And so it is for all fitness levels. And when we get into really our core values of who we are and our mission statement, and our mission is to build communities that challenge and sharpen one another. At the end of the day, we do it with integrity, grit, energy, and determination. We do whatever it takes to win, and we always rise as one. So it's this heart and foundation behind community, but really lifting each other up through that, which is why all of this plays into the unit economics and the business part of this, and why we have such a high retention rate, why we have members that have been with us for 9 and 10 years. And really the core values are then, how do we accomplish the mission, right? And the mission is, why do we exist? Core values is how are we going to accomplish that? And number one, we bring energy, and that's everything from our franchise partners and our owners bringing energy to their meetings, to our coaches bringing energy through the product, to our members bringing energy when they walk up the door, where a lot of people are like, man, what's in your guys' lime green Kool-Aid over there? But it's how we prepare, it's how we show up, it's the expectation that we're going to bring energy to that. We do the right thing. So obviously a fancy way of saying integrity, but at the end of the day, doing the right thing is not always the easy thing, but the right thing is always the right thing. And so we really balance ourselves and stabilize ourselves in that. And then number three, we embrace change. So I think any growing location, you're either growing or dying. There's no such thing at this stage of the brand. And so to give you kind of where we're at as a brand, we're at 32 doors open. We're approaching 100 doors awarded across the country. So we got about 60 locations in development right now. So this next 12 to 24 months is going to be a wild ride. And then we have about 30 different candidates that are looking at opening franchises across the country right now that are in the relative stage as you guys, but a little bit further along. And so with that, we were ranked as a top 150 emerging franchise by Entrepreneur Magazine. We made the Inc. 5000 list, actually the top 50% of that. So just experiencing substantial growth internally, and then externally with locations opening. So it's been obviously a huge blessing, but I think at the end of the day, we've been prepared for this growth. And here at headquarters alone, we have 15 employees already at headquarters. That is substantial. If you don't know franchising, that is substantial infrastructure from the very beginning. And we're huge believers in setting the infrastructure up. And that's what you're going to hear through validation when you talk to our franchise partners and owners, is that our rollouts, our marketing, everything is in line with a brand that's already at 300 units there. Jumping back to our core values here, we earn our results. So it's this level of accountability from obviously our here at HQ to our owners, to their teams, and then down to our members, is nothing's ever given, right? It's not easy to start a business. It's not easy to lose the weight that you need to lose or to get in the best shape of your life. But the reality is you can do it if you want to, but you're going to earn your results. And then lastly, is we rise as one. And that's really the heartbeat of who we are, and really rising together as one unit and one brand, no matter if you're a member or if you are a franchise partner or a coach within our system. And we really rally around that and create opportunity and platforms to be able to interconnect every single part of it. So meaning like our Facebook group, we have a coaches Facebook group. We do coaches huddles, right? So we're just pouring into our coaches who ultimately are delivering the product at the end of the day. But that goes for franchise partners, the same exact thing. That goes for our facility managers, same exact thing on that. So why is right now an amazing time to invest and jump into the boutique fitness space? I'll say a couple of reasons. Obviously, I'm biased. I've been doing this my entire career, but I've seen the substantial changes in already what's happened. I mean, I'm 35 years old, have 3 kids. And at the end of the day, I'll share here right after this a little bit of the story of how we got started into franchising. But, when it comes down to boutique fitness, really in 2008, 2009, you had the huge economic crash, right? And so boutique fitness was not around before then. You had maybe like Curves and some of those other brands, but it was not necessarily a thing. Well, it was all very high-end one-on-one personal training. And then obviously the economy crashed there in 2008. And so when that happened, what happened was it was really the birth of outdoor fitness boot camps. So I don't know if you guys remember, but there was like 50, 60 people running outdoor boot camps at a park. And that's really the birth of that. That then obviously economy jumped back. That then really birthed the indoor boot camps. And all the while you had Orange Theory. If you guys have heard of that brand, great brand. they're kind of paving the path forward within the boutique fitness space. And so you march through 2012, 15, 18, 19. It is at its peak. Boom, COVID hits. Oh my God, what's next? Right. And I couldn't answer that question going into COVID. And I'm again linked with a lot of other founders and CEOs, and it was the same exact thing. But what we found was, number one, every single month over month, we continue to grow steadily every single month. Right now, those locations that were open pre-COVID versus where they're at now, far exceeding 150%. So not only did they bounce back super fast, but we saw this big hockey stick curve. And the reason for that is COVID, number one, brought awareness to community. No one knew they needed community. And a lot of times it scared people, right? But now being isolated, and they know they need community, and then mental health and physical health. Obviously, COVID brought a ton of awareness to that. And what we found now is that boutique fitness is now an expected expense for a lot of people. It's not the first thing to go. So right now you could say, hey, are we in an economic downturn, whatever's going on out there? Yeah, you could argue that, right? The data points to that. But also on the flip side of that, what's happening? We're having record month after record month after record month. We're up as a brand over 700 members in June. That's unheard of, number one, in this space, but number two, within this industry, right? Because people are going on vacation. They're not thinking about fitness in the middle of summer. And so we continue to see this growth happen month over month, and that's really why. And so by 2025, this industry and this sector is expected to be at over $26 billion. So right now is an amazing time to jump in, especially where we're at as a brand. Amazing infrastructure, credibility, everything's already there. You get to jump on the wave of explosive growth. And so when we talk about this, here's just an example of, not only are we really pouring into our members and giving a great experience there, but 91% of our members are on the unlimited membership. That's hypercritical because brand average or industry average is about 60%. We're pushing that 91%. That's really important for two reasons. Number one, it's the highest ticket item, right? So we're driving the most amount of revenue to 91% of our members. Number two, it inherently helps retention, right? So much cheaper to keep a member than to go acquire a new member when you talk about marketing and all of that. And so we do that, number one, authentically and genuinely through actually knowing our members' names, their story, their injuries, what's going on in their life. But additionally to that, with having all of that, you got to think the loyalty, the relationship they have with other members, the relationship they have with coaches. And I know we have several members that are on this and can be like, yeah, makes a lot of sense, right? And so at the end of the day, they're staying longer. So the lifetime value of a member is far exceeding. And there, at the same time, is when you have a long lifetime value of a member, you can then go spend more money on acquiring new members. So I would say from a marketing standpoint, we're one of the strongest within the industry. But I mean, these pictures right here say it all, I think, from a branding and then as leaning into the strength component. And so when we started this brand, why do we call it ABT? What does that stand for? Like I said, it stands for athletic-based training. But growing up, when I think back to when I played college baseball, and if any of you guys played sports on this call, I think you'll be able to relate to this, that the moments I remember the most are not playing on ESPN in front of hundreds of thousands of people. The moments that I remember the most are the bus rides, the early mornings, the weight room, the camaraderie, all of that. And so when we started this brand, it was how do we, number one, bringing a training philosophy that we're going to train like athletes, no matter if you are an athlete, aren't an athlete, never played sports in your life. Why would we not functionally train like an athlete? They are typically the most functional human beings walking planet Earth. So let's train like one, right? And obviously for modified conditions, we have members all the way up to people in their 70s, but our core demographic is that 31-year-old, and that's who is our average age across the board. Obviously, a lot of market specific drives that. You get into a Nashville, like you see top left, they're more of an urban market. So that age is going to sit down in that 30 range. Then you look at maybe my right side, it might not be, but where it has the butcher shop, that's again downtown. in that pocket of Charlotte, North Carolina. But then we get into, bottom left-hand corner there with the American flag, and you're in Orlando, Florida, but you're in suburbia, Orlando, Florida. So the age is going to drive up a little bit more families there. But no matter what, community is at the heartbeat of what we do. And so again, what I was saying is train like an athlete. And how do we mix those two so that people get that experience of what it's like to be a part of a team and something bigger than them? And so am I biased to this model? 100%. I'll tell you why I love it. Number one is I can wrap my head around. I owned a bar at 22 years old. And again, it was one of those young, dumb mistakes. But at the end of the day, I'm like, man, it'd be so cool, my ego, to own a sports bar. It was miserable because I had to figure, not because of what happened inside. It was miserable because I had to figure out cost of goods and everything that goes into the acquisition side and ticket costs. And there's like so much to even think about. I can wrap my head around, I need more new members and I got to keep the members that I have. And they're on recurring revenue every single month. And as long as we're delivering to them every single month and treating them as they're a VIP, then they're going to stay, right? And so I love this because the more people that I help, the more money I make. The more money I make, the more people I can help. And it's just a beautiful cycle that happens within this industry. And it not only allows you, number one, for one location, 2 locations, 3 locations, but it's so scalable. Right. At one point, I owned 5 locations and I wasn't in those locations, more than, again, we had a director that was over them. But the reality is I wasn't in those locations every day. I wasn't in those locations every week, and oftentimes not in those locations every month. Now, being your first location, yeah, like you should be there. You should want to be there. It's your business. Right. But at the end of the day, the opportunity for scalable passive ownership is there within this model when you really hire great talent. Additionally, like I said, I've got 3 kids. I've got a 9-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 3-year-old. This is the atmosphere my kids are growing up in, and that's really important to me. Not from an entrepreneur. They see that. They see dad, building. That's important. But also what they're seeing is when they walk into an ISI, they're seeing people of all ages, races, demographics, fitness levels working together as one. And to me, that's the biggest life lesson that I could ever teach them is this is reality, not what you see on TikTok, not what you're going to see on the news. This is the reality of how life should be. And this is the expectation and how you're going to operate. And that's really important to me. I already mentioned it, but reoccurring revenue. I don't know if any of you guys are in sales, but a lot of times you have to go out and recreate that sale every single month, not in this industry, not in this model. Once you have somebody and you take care of them, then you're going to get reoccurring revenue. They're on a monthly membership every single month. You always know how much money you're going to make the next month because it's a 30-day notice of cancellation. And then lastly on this, not a lot of people think about this, but you're building an asset. So you're getting the cash flow from it, but also if you want to exit in 3, 4, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, whatever it is, you have an asset that is sitting there that is going to be typically anywhere from 2 to 4x based on your market, based on your revenue, EBITDA, right? And so you're getting the cash flow, but you also are building an asset at the same time. And again, if you're looking to expand your portfolio, trust me, I'm always looking at, do I invest in real estate? And it always lends back to this is going to create, again, you have to be a great leader. And you have to put people and empower people in the right direction. But this is always going to give off a great return when you do those things. So who are our franchise partners? Man, I cannot pinpoint who our exact greatest franchise partner is because the reality is they are all so different. They come from numerous backgrounds. We've got franchise partners that were former coaches at an Orange Theory. We've got franchise partners that have never been in the fitness industry. We've got franchise partners that are members. I mean, you've got right at about 70% of our franchise partners were members first. And so ISI changed their life and impacted their life, and they wanted to go then do that and invest in that. And so when you look through these different, I see this as empowered people empower people at the end of the day. And to me, it just excites me that this is really the legacy that a lot of these people are doing. They took that step. They overcame fear And that's the one thing that holds most people back. So, no matter what your background is, if you have a mindset of like, I can do this and I'm a great leader and I love people and I'm going to put in the work, right? This is not, a lot of times people will say, get into franchising is a turnkey business model. It is a turnkey business model. It's not a turnkey do it for you, right? At the end of the day. And so you gotta lead people. And if you love that, and if that resonates with you, then you can be highly successful when it comes down to this. So you're asking two most important questions. How much is it to invest? Number two, how much money can I make? So when you guys go through the process, you'll get the FDD, which stands for the franchise disclosure document. And that's a big document, but it explains everything, what you can and can't do inside franchising, all of that. But to get into it, so $60K is the franchise fee. If you do multiple units, then you get a discount on that franchise fee. You're securing those up front. So you're securing the territory. But additionally, your search territory gets bigger because you have 2 territories or 3 territories, and you can see kind of where that fee then goes. But on the total investment range, anywhere from 327 to 687. I'll say we're not seeing them on the 687 side. Really, what's that accounting for is we now have had locations open in California, in Miami, and some of these markets where construction is more, real estate is more. We're seeing average cost once TI dollars come back from the landlord being anywhere between that $400 and $450 range is really where we're seeing things kind of land right now. And then qualification requirements. This is all based on what the banks want to see. And liquidity, 200K. So that's stocks, bonds, cash, equity in your house, and net worth of 300K, and then a credit score of 680 plus. And that will get you funding for that. Typically, you're going to need 10 to 20% of total project. So if you're, let's just say 500K, you're going to need 100 to 150,000 to put into it. And then you can get a loan for the remainder amount of that. Several different funding options. I'm not going to go down that now. Obviously, Kelly will go through that during your discovery process. So speaking of discovery process, we call it the awarding process here. Very important, because there's a reason why we call our owners franchise partners and not franchisees. It's because we want to rip the tape off this corporate HQ structure. Like, we are HQ, and at the end of the day, you guys are our partners in this. We're going to help support you and give you the tools and assets and everything that you're going to need and coach you. But at the end of the day, you're a partner. You're the one executing in your guys' individual markets. And so when you go through the process, it's a two-way valuation, right? You're evaluating the brand to say, hey, is this the investment vehicle that I feel is going to, number one, fulfill my cup, my purpose? Am I passionate about it? Am I going to get the profit that I desire off of it? And then number two, we're evaluating everybody going through the process to say, are they going to be a franchise partner that's great for our culture? Protecting our culture is huge. Are they going to execute? Are they going to be a high performer? Because at the end of the day, that's our responsibility, is to bring franchise partners in that are going to execute and that are going to make really good money. Because if a location is not successful, that brings down the rest of the brand, right? So the process that we go through is you start with a brand intro call. These run at about a 4 to 7 day pace going through here. So your total discovery process is 4 to 6 weeks. It starts with a brand introduction call. You'll be working with Kelly Klein, who's our director of franchise development. And then we have a unit economics call then. And we're going to go through, hey, here's kind of our averages across the brand on expenses. Here's how you fill out it's called a pro forma, or AKA forecasting budget, so that you can see exactly how much you can make with this model. Then we're going to go through the FDD and territory review. Whatever market you're in, we're going to look to see what's available. We're going to go through the FDD, ask any question or answer any questions that you have from the FDD. And then you go into validation. So validation is a 2-week phase where, number one, you're going to have a call with myself and our COO, Amanda Hall. Number two, you're going to have the opportunity to speak with other franchise partners. You want to validate everything that you're hearing through the process, that it actually is, in fact, true, right? Because when you're going through this process, we're going to obviously tell you all the things that we do, but you want to validate that it's true. And you're going to hear that it is, but you also are going to get some cool insight into kind of some, hey, if they had any bumps in the road, what bumps in the road did they have? how do you avoid those things? But also, how are they liking it? What's their day-to-day like? And then lastly, it really ends with Meet the Team Day here in Charlotte. So before you come here to Charlotte, we're going to make sure that it's really that when you come here to Charlotte, it's a confirmation that, hey, I need to come in. I need to check. I need to do the workout. We're going to meet the team. Essentially, it's a 24-hour period, and it's a group confirmation or meet the team day. So you come in on a Thursday, leave on a Friday. You get in 2 workouts. Amanda and I and some other leadership will present for about 2 hours. That's it. And then we take you guys out to dinner. We really look at this as a joint, again, partnership. We want you guys to be invested in getting here. So you guys pay for your travel to get here. We take care of everything once you are here. What we don't want is people being like, yeah, I'm gonna go through the process and then I want a free vacation. Because at the end of the day, we want people that are serious and ready to pull the trigger on that next step in their life. And so we're going to invest resources into that. And the expectation is on the flip side of that as well. And then lastly, we get you straight into onboarding real estate search and you're off to the races. And so your support structure will go through on your guys' first call, but you have everything. You have a franchise opening coach who's going to be with you every step of the way. And then additionally, when we look at what the timeline looks like to open a location, you're right at 9 to 11 months is what from signing a franchise agreement to then opening your door. And this is really the very high level of what that looks like. So you'll be going through a phase where you're just looking for real estate. That takes about 90 days. And then you get into plans, meaning we're drawing up the plans for your space, what it's going to look like, the floor plan, and then permitting, right? It's got to go to the city for permitting, and then we start construction. Well, we do pre-sales here at ISI. And so when construction starts, your team is going to start executing a pre-sale campaign. And you come here to Iron U right before construction starts. And that's a week-long training of exactly what to do. We're training you on everything from technology to the sales process, to marketing, everything that you're going to need during that process. And that's about a 12-week process. During that and to give you guys some context, our most recent location in Cornelius, North Carolina, just opened. They're in the middle of what you would see as a VIP Founders Week right down here. And they're at 240 members right now. So they should close out this week with about 250 members opening their location. That is exactly how it should be. And so they're going to be in a position to be pretty much at break even day one. Now, what have they done? Exactly. If we go back to what I said, they've hired the right team. They've held their team accountable. They love people and they're great leaders. That's what allowed them to do that and have a sense of urgency to be in that position. But now, if you think about it, you guys can do rough math. You know, it's illegal for me to, it's called an earnings claims. It's illegal for me to ever say, hey, you're going to make this much money opening an ISI, because there's so much. Number one, I can't control who you hire. I can't, like here at HQ, we can't control how you lead. We can train you, but we can't control how you actually do it. It's your business at the end of the day. But when we look at that, you can do the rough math. If they're charging $179 a month and they are at break even day one, what's 100 memberships times 179? Right? If they get to 350 members here over the next 6 to 9 months, and look at that profitability, because it's a fixed cost structure, meaning you don't have that food cost like I was talking about with the bar. Everything is pretty much profit. You might have a little bit more toilet paper cost, right? You might add a few more sessions. You might pay your staff a little bit more, but it's so small into that level of profitability that you're going to get into, which is, again, why I love this model. Because then once you get there, it's reoccurring revenue, keeping your foot on the gas, reoccurring revenue, and it becomes this thing that you can actually like make a good amount of money. And then from there, it becomes scalable, right? What does that look like at 2 locations, 3 locations, 5 locations? And it gets really exciting for what it can be. So last thing with one thing that we do. So when you do get the FDD, you will see there's a $15,000 fee, and that is for construction project management. So one of the things that we've learned through the process is that first-time entrepreneurs, or if you've opened 100 locations, we want you focused on hiring your team, leading your team, and and being at charge during the marketing and all of that during pre-sales. The last thing we want you worried about is where an outlet goes, what color should a wall be painted. And so we have brought out, we really created and stood up an arm and brought in a team. And so this is an affiliate brand of ours that does project management from day one. So they're doing everything for you, from pushing your real estate partner. And we have a real estate team on that, pushing them to get you the LOIs, get you to lease. Then from there, we're working with the architect on plans. You will always have final approval on everything, but we are your liaison through that. And this is going to, number one, help you get open faster, which is, I mean, 2 months at $8,000 rent, that's 16 grand just right there. Additionally, when we go out to bid, we're controlling all of that. So we go out to bid, we get you 3 to 4 or 5 general contractors in your area. We put them up against each other and we start to do bid leveling, right? And so we start to negotiate the bids. So we'll typically see about an 8% reduction in what those came in. Ultimately, who you go with is your choice, right? But we are not going to, we're not going to tell you who to go with, but we're going to do all the negotiation on that side and give you our feedback. Then procurement of the items, making sure that we have the permits. We're doing all of that. Additionally, we're managing the GC through your entire process. We make 2 site visits, no matter where you're at in the country. So we're going to come out right when you sign that lease, and then we're going to come out when the project's finished. This construction specific team will, to walk the space with your general contractor, to go through the final punch list and hold them accountable to that. And then our team, obviously, operations team will be out for on-site training and your grand opening as well. And guys, that is a wrap. I could literally talk for 4 to 5 hours on all of this, but I want to give you enough information to chew on, but not so much to overwhelm you. I think the overarching theme here, if I had to peel it away, is right now is a great time to get in this industry. There's a ton of momentum behind our brand and ISI Elite Training. We have some key differentiators that are really going to help. Right now, we're a 2-to-1 ratio of new joins to terminations. I don't know if another brand within the industry can really speak to that. And then additionally, with the reoccurring revenue and the model and everything that has the ability, but also the support structure and team behind you. Again, you have to do the work, right? We will never tell you that we're going to do the work for you, but you've got an entire headquarters team. You're in business for yourself, but you're not by yourself, which I think is incredibly powerful. Especially if you've ever started a company by yourself, it can get lonely. So we're going to give you the playbook. You just got to execute against the playbook, and you got a ton of support behind you. We'll get into that during your discovery process of what exactly that looks like. And so when we look towards next steps, number one, I just want to say again, thank you guys for taking the time to jump on here today. I do want to open it up to a Q&A if you guys have any questions. But before we get to that, drop your email. And if you do want us to reach out, drop your email in the chat. Gabby will reach out to you, who's our franchise development manager, and she will coordinate that first call for you. And then additionally, you could also go to isifranchise.com. There's a ton of information on there. Fill out the form and we'll reach out on there as well. But I want to take a second, pause, and open it up for any Q&A that you guys may have. And I don't know, based on the setting, if it'll let you guys come off mute. If not, then feel free to type it in the chat, and we'll get it answered for you guys.
Hey, Adam, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Hey, John. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. I got a lot of questions here. I'll probably just be a little selective. But you mentioned 150, one branch was at 150%. Is that percent of total capacity based on space, and or is that a break even? You know,
yeah, 100. So they were up 150% from pre-COVID.
Okay.
It was the reference I was talking. So pre-COVID, I don't remember the actual number, but the percentage wise, they not only bounced back immediately, they're far exceeding that. So
like a lot of things. What is a member capacity for a typical location?
We haven't reached it. So
250, like numbers of members at a location, but what is our max?
Yeah, we haven't reached a max. So I can't give you that answer. So I will tell you that there's there, I believe it to be about 600. In that 500 to 600 range is when you start to lose the depth of the relationship. And that's the only reason I say that. We have several locations approaching 400 right now, and some of those just opened within this year. So they're going to hit that number relatively quick. And from an operational standpoint, John, there's several Orange Theories that hold 800, 900, 1,000. So we can easily we can hold that operationally. It's really, where does the retention then drop significantly, because we're not giving them the attention, and we're just becoming a turn and burn at that point. But to give you reference, really the goal within, and you'll reach it at, so our brand average across the board is about 250 for break even as far as members go. And that does not matter. Honestly, it does not matter what market you're in, because we adjust our pricing based on the market you're in. And so your rent may be, a lot higher than another market, but at the end of the day, you're going to be charging a heck of a lot more. So when we look at that, that doesn't really change. And really where we want to get to, and you start to see it, again, take this with a grain of salt, because it's not taking into effect like a New York City, where rent's going to be like 25 grand, right? But it's taking into effect at about the 600K mark in revenue. You're going to see that's when we start to see that desired 33% profit, 33% operating cost, 33% payroll.
Quick follow-up on the 250. Is that break even based on unlimited membership, or?
Yeah, that's break even based on average revenue per member that we see. So we look at all of the different, so we've got the different revenue streams, such as supplements, retail, no-show fees. So that's packaging that all in together and saying, what is our average for this tier? What is our average revenue per member? And then timesing it out by that number.
Hey, Adam, it's Zach. I had a quick question. You mentioned the new facility that's in Founders Week, planning to open with approximately 250 members. Did they take advantage of that guaranteed marketing option, and what's the overall maturity of that guaranteed marketing option?
Yeah, so everyone who's on the call, so Zach's referring to what's in the FDD is a pre-sales marketing option that we're going to be doing. So we haven't even rolled that out, Zach. We put that in this year's FDD so it's an optional service, and essentially what we're going to be doing is we're standing up, and we're in the process all of it right now. We're standing up a call center and leadership behind actually doing pre-sales for locations. At least all of the lead gen or the lead qualification, and then executing agreements on that. And so that has not launched yet. So they've done this all themselves. But that will probably be launching somewhere in Q4. But our legal team wanted us to go ahead and just, we operate with substantial transparency. So they wanted us to go ahead and put that in the FDD. So a lot of you guys that are on this call, by the time that you guys actually find real estate, there's a good shot that program will be launched.
Got it. Appreciate it.
You bet. Any other questions that I can answer for anybody?
I have another question.
Yeah.
At what point in the process post signature do you typically see facility manager brought in a full-time type role, really starting to kind of lead and own things?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the cool thing about a facility manager is you can hire that position honestly whenever, because a lot of them are already going to be in a position right now, and you can say, hey, this starts when we get our permits. Because ideally you're hiring them about 10 days before you guys come to Iron U here in Charlotte. So you're not having them on payroll for a long period of time prior to that. But what we've seen time and time again is people will go ahead and put out that job posting when they're in real estate, and they'll say, hey, I expect your start date to be, I don't know, say I'm putting it out today in October. They're totally cool with that. They stay where they're at as a job, because who you want leading your facility typically is not somebody who doesn't have a job today. But yeah, it's about 10 day when you'll officially have them on payroll, about 10 days before you come here to Iron U in Charlotte.
Got it.
How typical is it for the owner to fill that role?
We'd never recommend it. Reason I always say you never want to buy yourself a job. And so from day one, I always recommend, and that's not to say that owners shouldn't be in their business. That really is the organizational chart. If we will have some owners do an assistant facility manager, they'll step in as a facility manager with a plan to step out within the first 90 to 120 days of that specific role. Because at the end of the day, I don't know if any of you guys have read the EOS model, but that's how we really operate off of. And at the end of the day, that organization needs that person. They also need the owner, right? And so it's very hard to have both of those. We have seen some husband-wife teams where the husband will take that owner, or the wife will take that ownership role, and the wife or the husband will take that facility manager role. But it is important that there are two differentiators there on that side. Because you got to think like, hey, if you guys want to go on vacation for 3 weeks and you're sitting in a facility manager role, how's that facility going to run? So our team is always going to lend towards the side of set up infrastructure so that facility doesn't need you. You're there because you want to be there, not because you have to be there.
Then that's more what's in my mind there, that type of scenario.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, it doesn't mean we have owners that are in their facilities 5 hours a week and owners that are in their facilities 50 hours a week. So it doesn't mean that you can't be there, but there is a fine line of like hiring the right people, empowering those people, and then holding them accountable to the key levers within the business that are going to drive top line revenue and all the key indicators that we're looking at.
I'll ask you a question.
Yeah, bring it.
All right, this is not a defeatist mentality, but have you had any locations?
We've had no locations close. We have had a couple locations resell, and that really comes down to, again, that leadership arm, right? A couple of them were moving, but at the end of the day, like you got to be able to be a decision maker, and you got to hire the right people and then hold those people accountable. You can't be afraid to make decisions, right? And so, small portion of people have gotten into it, and like they haven't been able to make decisions, and then it's not where they want it to be. And that's for any brand. I always like this saying is the top 20% and the bottom 20% of any brand that you look at is always going to give you the same answer on why they're succeeding or why they're failing. So it's the brand's fault, right? Meaning the top 20% is going to say, man, I just follow the playbook. I execute on what they do. That's the top 20%. Bottom 20% is always going to say, I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough support. Right. And so it's really a mindset. It's interesting because it's always a mindset from owners that understand franchising and the boundaries that you can stay within. Right. And not just saying, I'm just going to depend on HQ to do everything. Like, you got to understand the boundaries, and then you got to go be a business owner at the end of the day. And so it does not bode well for people that think that they're just going to step into this and literally it's going to print money without you having to touch it. Right. It's not the fact. You're dealing with people at the end of the day. And that's where, if you look at any of our locations that are crushing it and making a ton of money, it's because they love people. It's not really, I think that's a cool thing though. It's not any skill set. It's just, they love people and they get what it looks like to hire the right person. Because you're going to hire the wrong person. Like, it's going to happen. It's just how fast can you get rid of that person so it doesn't hurt your culture.
Another question. Go ahead, Tom. I think you might come off mute.
Yeah. Tom, you got a question?
Okay, I'll go. Multi-unit,
I think you're on mute, Tom.
that upfront discount or multi-unit location rate, is that only upfront, or can you add to that as you go?
Yeah, that's up front. So you would secure that territory up front. And so say you did one and then you want to do one 2 years later, it'd be the same 60K.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just the question was the rates, new people coming in, obviously people coming from certain gyms that are pennies a month, and ISI obviously is a lot more.
Yep.
But to get 200 members initially is pretty good. Like, where are these people coming from that they're making that leap, from a 20, 30, $40 to 100 plus? Like, where are they coming from? And is there hesitation with it? Is it all the marketing and how it's presented in the initial opening?
Yeah, so I'll say this, they're not coming from those places. Our key consumer is that person that already has a membership at another one, and then they tell their friends, or it's somebody who's not doing anything or has had that $10 Planet Fitness and hasn't used it in a year and a half, and they're like, all right, this isn't working. Right. So it's never a conversation. It's honestly, what's crazy is it's never, this was not true 5 years ago, but now, because if you walk down the street, I'd say 8 people out of 10 would know what boutique fitness is. That was not true 5 years ago. And so people already know when they're walking through your door that what the price point is going to be around. And so that doesn't ever surprise them. Price is rarely ever an objection for us during the sales process. It's more like, oh, I've got a membership here or whatever. And then we have obviously said, number one, we got to deliver the best experience. So they're absolutely like, yeah, I'm in. But then number two, like, we do a quit free guarantee. So and it's never, ever, ever been redeemed in 3.5 years since we rolled it out. We'll give you all your money back if you come 12 times in the first month and you hate it.
Okay.
So it's really a risk-free guarantee for them. Because if they're like on the fence about it, you can always use that.
Okay. Interesting.
Any other questions for anybody? Cool.
Maybe along the same lines.
Yeah.
Where are the coaches coming from? The heartbeat of the facility.
Great question. Yeah, it's interesting. So where you're going to recruit you have 3 different positions within you got your sales leaders, who are your front desk folks, and then you've got your facility manager, and then you've got your coaches. So they're going to come really from 3 different areas of recruiting. I would say a lot of times your coaches are going to come from Instagram and job postings like an Indeed, and always be recruiting. Like we really focus and teach you guys to think of a sales funnel for talent, just as you would think of a sales funnel for member acquisition. And then for your facility manager, that's going to be more of a job posting, LinkedIn type candidate. And then your sales leaders, honestly, like, I'm a huge believer. I can't tell you how many sales leaders I've hired from Starbucks. I will literally go recruit them because they can remember their name. They understand customer service. Same thing with Chick-fil-A, right? So you can do job postings, but typically you got to think about a $12 to $14 an hour employee looking on Indeed. They're probably not, I don't know. Like, you might find a needle in a haystack, but it's going to be like you went to a Mexican restaurant and you had an amazing server. Like that's where I find all of them. So it's just top of mind, always having your cards on you. And I'll say, hey, I'm opening an ISI here. It's a boutique fitness concept. I loved your service tonight. Would love, if you're ever looking for a job. And I'm telling you, like 60, 70% of the time, they actually text me and reach out. But it's more active recruiting in that arm of things.
Good stuff. Thank you.
You bet. All right, guys. Well, we've got Patrick and Tom. We'll reach out to you directly. Anybody else that wants to drop their email, go ahead and do that before we log off here. And then you guys can also go to isifranchise.com. Honestly, guys, there's a lot of information on there. Also a link. We did a 56 episode podcast just on franchising. It's like 3 to 8 minute segments. So it's easy listening. You'll learn a ton about it there. So you could plug and play there. But the link to that is on the it's on the website, isifranchise.com as well. But outside of that, again, grateful you guys jumped on here. Appreciate your time. I know you could be doing a million other things, and look forward to chatting with several